Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar, How to Top Insurance Brokerage Firm SterlingRisk Supercharges Customer Retention. My name is Jamie Bisker, and I'm Director of Insurance Solutions for Salesforce, and I'll be the moderator for today's call. I want to welcome Scott Chirls to the webinar. Scott is joining us from SterlingRisk, where he's the Chief Information Officer as well as a Salesforce Administrator. He's also a registered P&C broker in the state of New York. Joining me to further introduce our customer and their use case is Adam Frank, Lead System Engineer for Salesforce. Our agenda today has me providing a brief industry overview and then an outline of our Salesforce for Insurance capability. From that point on, Adam will then introduce Scott and review the SterlingRisk use case. And at that point, we'll hear from Scott and how his company has changed their sales and service approach with Salesforce, and then see a demo of SterlingRisk solution. After that, we'll open up the call for questions and answers. Before we begin, though, I'd like to invite you to interact with the presenters during our broadcast in the following ways. For questions, you can use the Ask a Question button that appears in the upper left corner of your screen. If there's anything you'd like to ask today's presenters, please click the button and then type your question. We left time at the end of this webinar for a question and answer session, and we'll be able to get back to you as soon as we can. You can also use the button if you encounter any type of technical issues during the call. Another thing we can work on is the idea of rate this. We want to make sure that our webinars are offer valuable content and meet audience expectations. So please take a moment after the presentation to tell us how we were doing using the Rate This button, which you'll see just to the right of the question button. So now let's get to the presentation. In my role as Director of Insurance Industry Solutions, I have an opportunity to work with many of our customers in the insurance space and also take advantage of my 30 years of experience in the industry. And one of the things that we see in this kind of tumultuous time in the insurance industry is a set of insurance realities. We see the concept of tailwinds pushing the industry forward, as well as headwinds that hold the industry back. So if we look at the idea of tailwinds, we see that there's definitely a move toward direct distribution. This has been ongoing for a number of years, and yet in the last couple of years, we've seen a very intense progress toward this. The carriers are spending a lot more attention on what it means to be and provide direct distribution. Another concept is digitization, the idea of leveraging all aspects of a digital economy, the capabilities of modern IT systems to take advantage of the information that's available to an insurance company and get the information to their distribution channels, to provide information to their policyholders and prospects in ways that meet the needs of the modern population. So this means taking advantage of digital devices, understanding the ability to mine data from existing data sets as well as external data sets, and make that part of the composition of the services provided, the products that are produced, as well as the information that's provided to the professionals that support this type of a digitization effort. So we also see a lot of improvements happening in the underwriting space, where there's a little more automation happening, some expert underwriting or black box underwriting. And this allows carriers to have more efficiency and rely more on science and less on the art of underwriting, and produce results that are a little bit more trackable, a little more understandable, and be able to adjust policies, procedures, and pricing, as a matter of fact, as necessary moving forward. Customer centricity is also finally more in view. It's something that we've been talking about for the last decade easily, and yet customers are beginning to demand it more because they're getting this type of a deep customer experience and understanding what it means to have a customer at the center of operations of any type of business, and they're beginning to demand it from the insurance industry. So a lot of carriers are paying attention to this and working towards putting the customer at the center of their operations and switching out of the old mode. And finally, on the tailwind side, one of the things we're seeing and hearing from our customers in the insurance space is the idea that the online channel is really taking hold, that with the combination of increased digitization and capability in this space, we're also seeing the millennials and younger generations demanding the capability of doing the research, filing a claim, talking to their agent on whatever digital device or omni-channel mechanism that they may want to use. Now, in terms of headwinds, these are some kind of oldies but goldies in the fact that we've recognized these for many years, and yet they continue to take on a heightened relevance to the insurance industry. So certainly the number one is siloed legacy systems. The idea that carriers have accumulated a number of back-end systems, whether it's policy or billing systems or underwriting, and they've developed these breakdowns in their ability to communicate clearly, and we'll talk about that more in a few moments. Distribution brain drain talks about the fact that as a result of demographics and changing dynamics in the industry, we are losing a lot of our distribution experience, and it's difficult to replace it. So we have carriers worried about knowledge management, understanding what it means to mitigate risk and to present their customers with options for reducing their premium and moving forward in a good relationship with their carrier and managing risk in a way that's better for their own business. And certainly low interest rates as a result of the impact of the financial crisis and other aspects of the global economy. Low interest rates are impacting both property and casualty as well as life and annuities. And it tends to be an ongoing challenge as products need to be recalculated, pricing needs to be revisited, and carriers are having to understand what it means to have their efficiency in underwriting keep up with the fact that they can't count on revenue coming from their investment income. And finally, complex regulation and product and account-centric views. Complex regulation has been a challenge for the insurance industry for many years with global challenges such as solvency regulations, as well as more recent regulations in the states, such as the Department of Labor fiduciary rule, Graham-Leach-Bliley, the Sarbanes-Oxley. All these represent challenges for the insurance industry, and the need for flexibility and agility in their business processes is evident more than ever before. And this goes back to the product and account-centric view needs to change. It's something the carriers are beginning to really put some emphasis on and wondering how they can consolidate the multiple views that happen as a result of these older systems, what they can do to challenge that and get them on a tighter, more customer-centric aspect of their business. So one of the ways we like to talk about understanding these challenges is to understand the engage, sell, and service model of insurance. And what we see here is a line that Salesforce likes to refer to as a customer journey. It's kind of a modern view of the old value chain way of looking at the insurance industry. And so we see, starting with the numerical order, the fact that people usually have a goal, whether that's a self-set goal or a goal to meet compliance with the state regulations to have a certain amount of insurance, or the bank's regulation to have a certain amount of coverage for a loan. And then progresses through a logical chain of events such as reviewing advertisements, listening to word of mouth, doing research online, getting advice from friends, and then moving into the selling phase where they have to understand the alternatives, they make a purchase, etc., as you can see on the slide. And it moves forward into the request for service, the activation of service, the time to get it resolved, and then going through the reminders for service renewal, weighing options, and starting the process all over again. So at each of these points, we have an opportunity to serve customers better, to put them at the center of operations, and provide not only better service, but also better retention and better upsell, cross-sell opportunities for the insurance company. However, what we know and happens in real life is that as a result of our siloed systems, whether it be in sales and underwriting, policy administration and service, or our retention and cross-sale activities, we see fissures or cracks happening that really impact the customer journey. So each of the red dots represents where a service capability, information transmission, simple communications have broken down. And this has created a lot of challenges for the insurance industry over time. So what we've worked on at Salesforce is understanding how we can break through this challenge and moving from a generically adequate model of insurance to a precision insurance model. And so this goes over some of those same points again. The idea of being product-centric, moving to customer-centric, moving from sales and post-sales centricity, and the idea of just worrying about commission, the concept of providing advice, and that our brokers and agents will become super advisors, leveraging capability that puts the customer at the center of operations so they understand that they're getting compensated not for the amount of premium they bring in, but for the satisfaction that they provide to the end customer, whether it be commercial or personal lines customer. Also moving from static processes to a culture of innovation. What can they do to take advantage of the digital economy, the changes that are happening in demographics in various aspects of the insurance industry? And finally, moving from a system of record to a system of engagement. We think this is going to be one of the best ways to break down those old silos and do it in currently without having to wait for everything to transmit or to mature over time to something better. We can use the system of engagement today to take on these old systems of record. And the way we do that is to recognize that the power and the capability of existing core systems or systems of record and layer on top of it the system of engagement, reach into it, pull information out, and provide a 360-degree view of the client, the processes, their concerns, understand this in context so they can be marketed to correctly, so they can receive information as they want to receive it, and so we can fulfill these four challenges at the top of the system of engagement, which is the definite need for a company to know their clients, know their customers and policyholders, to guide them, to answer these questions about, please guide me as I move through my need for risk management, my need for policies and protection options, my need for payment options. Also, keeping promises. When you provide services, are you doing it with respect? Are you understanding their needs and meeting the capabilities that they have and giving them the information on the device and the mechanism they want? If they want a phone call, can you do it on a phone call? Will the information be the same to the service center representative as it is to the agent, as it is to the customer? Can you keep the ability to provide quality service in sync with every other channel that you're using? And finally, can you provide value? Providing information and understanding the clients in context so that they'll be able to provide you information and you can give them service back. And I think we're going to hear a lot more about this from Scott as he talks about how SterlingRisk has moved forward to provide value to their customers with this type of capability. So right now, I think I'm going to turn it over to Adam to do a little bit more introduction of SterlingRisk and for Scott. Adam?
Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. So we're going to move forward, and I'm going to have the extreme privilege of introducing SterlingRisk. Before I do that, my name is Adam Frank, and I'm a lead solutions engineer at Salesforce. I'm also a subject matter expert in insurance, having spent over 10 years in the insurance industry. In my role at Salesforce, I have the unique position to be able to see not only horizontally across the insurance brokerage business, but also vertically up the chain, also speaking with many insurance carriers, reinsurance carriers, and the like throughout the business. And today we're going to highlight one of our marquee customers, SterlingRisk Insurance. So SterlingRisk is a top 100 insurance broker in the United States. And Sterling is using many of the Salesforce product platform to really drive sales and service excellence. Their journey into Salesforce has started really as a typical one. It started primarily from a sales and marketing standpoint to supercharge their organic growth initiatives, to really supercharge how they're actually bringing on new customers. But as Sterling started to see the power of the platform, they started to engage more into the additional products and services that they're able to put into the hands of their producers, but then also into the hands of their end customers. And as you can see their journey map progression here, there was a point back in 2015 where they recognized the power of the platform and what they can do for their end customers, to put their customers at the heart of their business and offer services that were additional value adds in addition to just selling premiums, selling renewals, and paying out claims. In a moment, Scott is going to introduce what that means for the customer, but now there's additional initiatives that are taking their data science to the next level with the Wave Analytics Cloud. But enough about me and enough about Salesforce. I'm proud to introduce to you today Scott Chirls, the Chief Information Officer for SterlingRisk. And Scott is going to take us through their use of the Salesforce platform that supercharges their client retention efforts. Scott, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Adam. I've been at SterlingRisk for over 13 years on the broker side. I've worked with all aspects of the company, working on automation and reporting. I have spent a lot of times with our programs department where we act as MGA with our clients. Today, I'm going to show you about one of the tools that we are working on right now. Our goal was to come up with a tool that would make our clients' operations safer, make them more attractive to our carrier partners, and a byproduct of this endeavor is that our clients have more reasons to stay with us, since we and our software becomes an integral part of that operation. In deciding how to build this, we decided to go with Salesforce Community because it was flexible, we were familiar with the product, and the cost to entry was very low. This is SafetyNet, the portal that we created. The portal that we created to do all this. It's built on Salesforce Community. We use Visualforce to customize the interface. And we started with a real simple home screen that allows our clients to get access to the tools they need right away. And I'll walk you through a couple aspects of this tool. I'm going to show you how our clients use it to track incidents in order to discover trends, and how they use it to promote a proactive safety culture. So first I'm going to show you the incident tracking. So this is a record of an incident. It looks very much like Salesforce, so you can see we just lightly customized it in this case, which allowed us to develop it more quickly. As an incident occurs at our client's place of operations, they're able to log it into the system. And there's obvious benefits to having all of the information in one place in a centralized repository, regardless of how many offices they are, geographically where they are. They can keep all of the details in one place, including notes, attachments, pictures, video files of the incident. They can keep witness statements, and even additional information on litigation that we have here as well. We pull in workers' comp carrier information, automatically syncing with this. So in the tool, we don't need to keep track of the amount reserved and incurred. That's all right here in one spot and all automatically. We also have built into this business processes so that as incidents are created, we automatically notify the correct stakeholders. The more severe an incident, the more people will get notified. We also have it coming to us as the broker automatically, so we can put in the first notice of loss, and so they don't need to do a separate process with that. And the goal of this is really to be able to identify and correct trends in real time. Here's an example of an analytics page where we can see the information feeding in real time here as well. From looking at these reports, we can see if there are certain locations that are problems, specific body parts, seasonal fluctuations, etc. We can see it quickly and on the fly. The next part of this is I'm going to show you how we use this to build a proactive safety culture. We don't want to wait for the loss to occur in order to take corrective actions. We want to be ahead of it. So we built safety audits and procedures into the portal as well. Here's an example of an audit that we have in the system. We use the system to schedule these so they can come daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly as needed to the correct people. So if a client has 100 different locations that need to be done monthly, it can all be scheduled in the system. The system sends out the audits at the appropriate time, and they can be filled out on a computer, on an iPad, or on a phone. And then the system will track which locations are in compliance and what the scores are for those audits. It's really a tool that's best suited for our largest and most complex risks. It can take us anywhere from 3 days to 3 months to onboard, depending on the complexity. It's really designed to be built out and customized for each client. So if they want just generic what's available, we can have it out immediately. If they really want to build it into their processes with customized audits, we can really take the time and to build that as well. Everything that I've shown you today is responsive, so will work just as well on a phone as it does on a computer, which was an important part for us. And that was really what I wanted to show you today.
Right, Scott, so I wonder if maybe for the benefit of the audience, you can talk to some of the value proposition that this is creating for your customers and really what it does from a retention standpoint.
Sure. We built it primarily so that we can make our customers more safe. We have this tagline here, reduce risk, spend less. The safer we can make our clients, the more attractive they will be to the carriers, and we can really build on that partnership and make it easier. The stickiness and the retention was really a byproduct of that, where we're becoming part of the same team. It gets used as a collaboration tool. It allows us to really become intertwined, and it makes it harder for them to leave us.
Excellent. So, Scott, thank you very much for that demonstration of the Salesforce community in action at SterlingRisk. And I think now we're going to turn it over to Jamie to take us out.
Well, thank you, Scott, and thank you, Adam. Very much interested in any questions we have from the audience and the folks on the phone. I had a quick question for Scott. Was to what extent do your customers, these would be industrial customers, I would guess, and commercial businesses, they're leveraging this on their desktops, or do you find them leveraging it on their mobile devices or on their laptops, or how are they using it? Yeah,
they're really using it in all kinds of ways. We have one of our first clients had a warehouse with iPads built into their forklifts, and we found them using it right then and there. Certain aspects of it, are almost used exclusively on phones and tablets, including the audits. Other parts of it, people are more comfortable with on a keyboard, but it's really up to them, and it can be used either way.
And so you're finding that they are being proactive, aside from you scheduling audits. Are they reaching out back to you saying, hey, we're doing this on our own because we have this tool?
Yeah, I mean, they don't even need to do that, because once it's scheduled and once it goes out, the system really takes care of a lot of the planning and follow-up for them.
I see. Okay, that's very cool. And Adam, I was going to ask you, I know you were involved in some of the implementations of this. What was it like to build this within the SterlingRisk environment? Was it something leveraging their existing systems? Was it a matter of integration? What was the challenge of developing this like?
Right. So, the little-known secret is that the 10 years that I spent in the insurance brokerage business, 9 of those 10 years were actually spent at SterlingRisk. And I was here on site when they initially decided to move into the Salesforce ecosystem. Basically, the journey is the same. It starts usually in sales and marketing, but then once you see the power of the platform, which I'll let Scott speak to some of the specifics, once you start understanding the capabilities that become available to be able to put the customer at the center of the business, that's when a lot of these ideas started to really come about. So the idea to have self-service abilities, the idea to be able to empower the customer, not just to come to the brokerage or to the carrier to fulfill a renewal or to pay a claim, but really to give analytical tools that actually help them to understand what is driving their claims, what is driving that safety culture, how do we promote better safety. That's always been at the heart of, I know, what Sterling has always done over the last 80 years that they've been in existence. Really, when Salesforce came into the picture, it allowed Scott, with some of the mind share of the CEO, David Sterling, to be able to take that risk management approach, that risk engineering approach, to a level that puts it at the heart and into the hands of the customers.
And I do want to clarify that, we took the Salesforce tool, the communities, and we customized it completely in-house ourselves.
All right. What was the feedback, though? Did you actually make any changes once it was rolled out, not only your own staff, but to the customers that you're working with as they try to, get various types of commercial coverage? Were you able to adapt screens and things to their needs, or is it something that just has been pretty static?
I'm smiling because when we take this tool to a client, not only to a new client to sign up, not only do they love it, but the conversation quickly goes to, well, what else can we put on here? Because we love it so much. And anybody familiar with Salesforce knows how easy it is to add on additional objects and additional screens. And generally, we can do that pretty quickly on here as well. And our larger clients, we've added on, in the matter of hours, additional features for them.
Okay, great. So I think at this point, we'll turn to see if there's any questions from the audience out there. Adam, I don't know if you had any other further questions for Scott.
Really just a general question. If you had to give any type of advice to people that are either thinking about going with Salesforce or putting their first toes in the water and, wanted to have a little bit of direction on what they should do, can you maybe talk, for a few minutes about, just what approach you would suggest based on your own experience? Sure.
A lot of my experience comes from classes and Trailhead and just playing with it in general. The kind of biggest hump for me on communities was really understanding that we're just taking the Salesforce objects that we know and love and just giving access to outside clients. And once I kind of understood that, the rest was much simpler.
Right. Scott, it looks like we have a question coming in from the webinar. How does Salesforce integrate with your management system?
So this specific tool doesn't integrate with our management system, but we certainly could. Today we use Informatica to sync data from Applied Epic on a nightly basis. So we have objects in Salesforce today, including policies and employees and who our carriers and broker partners are. If we wanted to display that within this product, we certainly could.
Perfect.
Great.
And Scott, I also see a question coming in talking about, really talking to resource adequacy. We know that Sterling is considered a super regional. You have over 200 employees. The question comes in for some of the smaller brokerages, just getting a gauge on, how long it takes to do these things, or what kind of skill sets, or how complex is it for the technology team to deliver something like this?
This tool was primarily built by myself. I did have somebody help me with some of the more complex program, but I would, we'll say some of the CSS, which is not my expertise. But getting, probably about 95% of it was one person, taking me, 2 to 3 months on and off, probably more off than on. And so it is something that can be accomplished by, without a giant IT staff. Does that answer your question? Do you have more to that?
I think that answers that.
Adam, I was going to ask you a question that, because of your familiarity with our customer here, in that, was there an issue with the normalization of data from the existing systems that you had to integrate to make this function, or is data normalization was not a big issue for this instance?
Yeah, so Jamie, you're hitting on a big issue that the industry faces, because most agency management systems, they don't do an amazing job at maintaining historical trending data, right? And that's definitely something that we see with the Applieds of the world, the Vertifores, the AMS 360s, the Sagitas. It's something that's super common whenever I visit a new or an existing insurance broker. There are a number of ways to do that, and I'll let Scott maybe talk to some of the ways that they're doing it, and then also maybe just to talk about how the investment in Wave is helping them to understand some of the data. Scott?
Great.
Yeah, to talk first about data normalization, The fact that most of our clients that we go to don't have normalized claims data right now is why this tool is so useful. There's only so much you can get off of a carrier loss run, and if they've switched carriers, 2-3 times over 5 years, it almost definitely won't match up. So they're able to use this tool, enter in their incidents going forward, and so they know it's going to be normalized because they're entering it themselves. And then we just append the data from those loss runs that we know are going to be the same, the reserve numbers and the incurred numbers and whether the claim is open or closed. And so a lot of it falls into their hands and our hands, and we're able to make sure that's done. We typically don't go too far back. Sometimes we'll go a year just so we have something to work with. And that can be done either with importing spreadsheets where we normalize the data a little bit, or sometimes they use it for training and they have somebody at the client's office manually entering in this information as a way of testing the system, making sure it works, and training themselves on it.
Okay.
As far as the analytics piece goes, we've been on Wave as well, and we found ways that we can explore where the data isn't normalized easily so that we can manually fix it as well for certain projects.
Well, that was something I was going to ask you, was the integration of the analytics. Is that something that was there from the beginning, or something that you saw and wanted to integrate, or the customers were asking for?
So we don't integrate today Analytics Cloud into this community, but we do use it for our regular brokerage operations internally. The analytics piece that's part of SafetyNet is a combination of the Salesforce reporting and some customized visualizations.
I see. But you're leveraging the more analytics, like Wave Analytics, within the brokerage itself?
Correct.
I see. Cool. All right, Adam, did you have any other questions? Did you see any coming in from outside?
I think we've answered most of them. The only ones that were left are how many of your insurance carriers are providing information to you online. I know that a lot of it is actually being fed into the agency management system, which then rolls up into Salesforce. I'm not exactly sure what else there is on that. Let's see what else is in here. So this is always an interesting question, and I think it might be a good one to end on. Talking to the cultural changes that happen when you bring in Salesforce, I'm seeing a very familiar question here. Can you speak to how the rollout worked for sales bringing on their clients? Was there resistance, and how maybe have you gotten some support?
Is that feedback from our clients or feedback from internally?
I would say I would interpret it from feedback internally.
Okay. So thinking back, we've now been on Sales Cloud 5-6 years or so I'm going back a little bit. But yeah, in order to get traction here, my biggest tip would be to simplify. Really start off simple. You can always add more complexity in later. But, keeping just the fields you need, something as simple as really keeping just the fields you need, make it much easier for everyone to understand and makes it more enjoyable to use. That's my tip.
Yeah, I mean, I have the luxury of having the perspective of multiple brokerages, multiple carriers, and simplicity definitely is the key. There is usually a little bit of a cultural revolution, like usually on ground zero go live day. But what we find is that when you can make things simpler, for whether it's a producer at a brokerage or a territory sales manager at a carrier, they can go into one system, find everything that they need, be able to update things quickly and easily. It'll end up making their day. And then in the case of Sterling, the additional benefit of having access to a centralized marketing/brokering team that is doing your applications for you, basically it becomes an input funnel. Here's the submission data. It goes to the centralized marketing department, making the life of the producer a lot easier. So I will say that, I have a couple of black eyes, on day one, but just stick with it, show them the value, answer the question, what's in it for me, and then you'll be able to get that adoption that you seek.
Yeah, adoption is key, and that if you don't have good adoption, it's difficult to get all the value out of the tool, but certainly something that needs to be monitored by customers and by the Salesforce account team as well. So very good counsel there. Well, gentlemen, I think we had a great call and very much appreciate, Scott, you joining us and providing insight and that good demo of the product. Adam, thank you for your expertise and knowledge. And with that, I'd like to point out that if anyone wants the material available from this webinar, that they go up to the button called Attachment. It's very close to the Rate This button as well as the Question button. You can click on that and get the material that's available, as well as the fact that there'll be emails posted later to your accounts to get any of the other follow-up materials that we're going to provide from this webinar. So again, thank you, Scott, very much for joining us and providing your perspective on your utilization of Salesforce. And Adam, thank you for your expertise. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody on the phone and look forward to speaking with you soon about how Salesforce can enable you to become a customer-centric insurance company. Thank you very much.